Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Click that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one.
Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like
Absolutely.
on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians
That's right.
as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today.
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good evening, you're with GB News and in a moment headliners, but first let's bring you up to date with the latest news headlines. And today, the Prime Minister accused the Labour leader of being on the side of the people smugglers as the pair went head-to-head in the House of Commons over the new illegal migration bill. Rishi Sunak defended the legislation which will remove those who enter the UK illegally and ban them from seeking asylum in future. Sir Keir Starmer cast doubt on the plan, saying attempts to tackle the number of channel crossings in the last decade have failed and numbers have just gone up.
The Honourable Gentleman has been on the wrong side of this issue his entire career. He described all immigration law as racist. He said it was a mistake to control immigration. And he has never, ever voted for tougher asylum laws. It is clear, Mr. Speaker, while he's in hock to the open border activists, we're on the side of the British people.
Mr. Speaker, when I was in charge of prosecutions, I extradited countless rapists, and the conviction rate for people smuggling was twice what it is today. I voted against his legislation last time because I said it wouldn't work. Since it became law, the numbers have gone up. He's proved me right.
Meanwhile, in other news today, the RMT union said they'll vote tomorrow on a new pay offer from Network Rail, which is aimed at resolving a long-running dispute over pay, jobs and conditions. The suspended industrial action was due to take place on the 16th and 17th of March. The union's now saying the new pay offer does involve extra money, but they're saying industrial action with 14 other rail companies will still go ahead later this month. A Labour MP says Russian and Belarusian companies are using a legal loophole to continue doing business in the UK while avoiding sanctions put in place to help support Ukraine. Siobhan McDonough says some products are subject to sanctions if they come from Belarus, but not if they come from Russia, prompting Belarusian companies to move goods to Russia, then simply sell them to the UK legally. Foreign Office Minister David Rutley has promised to crack down on sanction evaders in both countries. The Princess of Wales has given first aid to a wounded soldier as part of a military exercise on Salisbury Plain today. Kate also received demining training and viewed the weapons used by the 1st Battalion Irish Guards. This was the Royal's first visit to the troops since receiving her honorary appointment as Royal Colonel last year. Let's bring you some news now about Prince Harry, and he's in the headlines because he is due to go to court. The Duke of Sussex will be at the centre of a High Court trial, in fact, against Mirror Group newspapers over phone hacking allegations. He's one of several high-profile celebrities bringing action against the publisher. The tabloid newspapers contesting the claims, arguing that some have been brought too late. The trial will begin on the 9th of May and last for around 7 weeks. Cheshire Police are investigating Manchester City's Kyle Walker over allegations of indecent exposure. It's understood the incident is alleged to have happened on Sunday after City's 2-0 win over Newcastle. The force says the incident is alleged to have occurred in a Wilmslow bar in Manchester. And that's it from me. I'm back tomorrow, but in the meantime, let's go over to headliners.
Hello, I'm Leo Kearse and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's most important and fascinating stories. Joining me tonight are the important and fascinating Josh Howie and Cressida Wetton. And we normally cut to them, but for some reason we've stayed with me. But trust me, they are here. Do you want to say something so people believe me?
Hello, my name's Leo. Oh, no.
Anyway, before we get stuck into the rest of the stories, what have you both seen in the papers that's made you laugh? And I'm not just talking about Gary Lineker's claims that Britain is like Nazi Germany. Josh,
we'll get
what
to
have you seen?
I saw Mo Farah, obviously four-time gold Olympic winner, got beaten at his parents' sports day. In the 100 metres.
And it was in the 100 metres. It wasn't like the egg and spoon race.
No, it wasn't like anything ever he had. And he had his like special running shoes on that was spiked, and it was by a guy in jeans.
Oh my God!
And you just think, wow, could you imagine that guy?
Fantastic.
That guy is just going to be like.
Well, he's surely going to be in the next Olympic team if he can do that in jeans. Imagine what he's
a good runner, but not good at the 100 metres allegedly.
Right.
But I would feel and it's very competitive. I don't know if you haven't really got there.
I believe you.
Every year I do it, and all the parents like go crazy for it. And people turn up in their lycra and all of that stuff.
I've heard about you at school sports day, Josh, and your incredible competitiveness.
And my lycraness.
What have you seen?
I saw a fantastic story. There's a woman who's she's had a Subway sandwich that should have been 6 inches long.
Oh, yeah.
She was suspicious about the length of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's taken a tape measure, measured her sandwich, and it was just over 5 inches.
Oh, my God.
I just love that.
You round up. When you're dealing with inches, you round up.
I'm sure it was 8 inches.
I love that level of being petty. It makes me feel so good about myself. I feel so unneurotic when I hear that. Fantastic.
You feel neurotic. Think of me and Josh feel doing that. Anyway, let's have a look.
With you anymore.
Let's have a look. We're making our sandwich. Let's have a look at Thursday's front pages. The Daily Mail has, is Lineker about to get the boot from the BBC? The Telegraph has, Hancock's Chinese lab leak claims censored. Another far-right conspiracy theory comes true. The Guardian has Sunak facing clash with EU on unlawful asylum plans. The Times has weight loss drugs could help to trim benefits bill. The Metro has Our Little Princess, Sussex's Lilibet christened with official title. That's front page news, apparently. The Daily Star has Who's a Pretty Naughty Boy Then? Potty Mouth Parrot Causes Chaos in the Boozer. And those were your front pages. And let's... And let's kick things off. I won't try and fill any dead air anymore. Let's kick things off with the front page of the Telegraph, Josh.
Well, yes, someone alert our GB News correspondent, Dr. Matthew Sweet, but we got some more stuff about COVID that he might like to find out. Yeah. Hancock's Chinese lab leak claims censored. So this is within the book that he wrote. Ghost written there. That people didn't see me there, but I did the bunny ears. And basically he said that it was like the idea that it came from Wuhan. It was just coincidental. That idea just doesn't fly. Yeah. And essentially the government said, no, mate, don't do that.
You can't say that.
You don't want to anger Chinese people.
Yeah.
or the government, Chinese government, which essentially China's holding the whole world to ransom.
Yeah.
So the truth, or the possible truth, or 80% of the truth, whatever Ofcom needs me to say, doesn't come out there. And it's amazing that the government, we have gone so deeply into his book, to basically the pandemic diaries, and he, like any rational human being, has looked at the evidence. And this is the one time I'm actually going to agree with Hancock, where you're just like, you're right, he makes total sense. It doesn't make sense that there just happened to be this lab
so close to the wet market.
And then there's lots of other evidence that's also coming out and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it is amazing that the government, because this is the first time that our government has seemingly taken a stand on this issue.
Yeah.
And their reason for doing so, as they say very clearly, is to not annoy the Chinese people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're told all through the pandemic to follow the science and trust in the science. And in fact, in some cases, it wasn't science. This is pure political posturing. They're saying you've got to follow this line, not because it makes sense, not because there's evidence for it, but because we want to avoid a diplomatic spat with China.
I don't know why you're telling us. We were there, mate. I remember it.
Cresta, have you got any thoughts on that, or are you just feeling vindicated that?
Totally, man. I'm having the best week. I'm on Team Oakshott. I think she's.
Are you liking her style?
Totally, and not just because of the eye makeup, although that is fabulous.
It's a very Oakshott-y dress.
Do you think?
Yeah, very
flattering. No, fantastic work.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
I'm sure she will. I'm sure there's lots more to come from all those WhatsApp files. Anyway, Cresta, what's on the front page of The Guardian?
On the front page of The Guardian, we've got Sunak facing clash with the EU on unlawful asylum plans. But we've also got Gary Lineker. I'll continue to speak up for poor souls with no voice. Match of the Day host has said that the language set out in the plan was not dissimilar to that used in 1930s Germany. That's amazing, isn't it? I don't think they're really comparable, Gary.
No, they're not at all.
He's compared Hitler's Germany with modern Britain. Obviously, modern Britain is a multicultural, multiracial society, proudly multiracial society, where equal rights are enshrined in law. There are laws to protect and prevent.
We know that England's different from Nazi Germany.
Yeah, we're different from
the UK. Sorry.
Like people in 1930s Germany, Jews weren't crossing seas to try and get into Nazi Germany. That was, there's a massive
the other way around. And Hitler, he wasn't necessarily about closing borders more than just taking everybody else's borders.
Yeah, making his borders further out.
It's lazy thinking.
Yeah.
It's just like anything bad is Nazi Germany, and it's an insult to the victims of what happened there. So it's like, compare it to other stuff. Compare it to the Australian government, what's going on there. Compare it. Yeah. It's not like he doesn't have arguments to make, but just defaulting to Nazi Germany is wrong.
And it's an insult to Nazis as well, who put so much effort.
That's what you care.
They put so much effort into being evil, and then he's coming along and just comparing them to Rishi Sunak.
I'm gutted because he is my favourite crisp advertiser after the yellow monster on the Monster Munch.
We're going to cover a story later about how the NHS has to introduce a weight loss drug so that all the children who've been flogged crisps by Gary Lineker can avoid developing diabetes.
Just like Nazi Germany.
Anyway, moving on, we have the Metro, Josh.
We have our very fetching Queen-to-be one day. She's got the hot pants on. Got some hot pants, army hot pants at the very top of there.
So she is.
I'm not talking about the little child at the bottom of the picture.
Oh right.
I didn't think you were.
I'm talking about the adult one at the top.
When's she going to be queen? I thought there was quite a few people in the wings.
I just want to be very, very clear about that. I was talking about this one up here, not this one, not the baby down here.
Yeah.
So we've got Kate. That was a close call.
Kate looks like she's ready to go into Ukraine.
Yeah, do some measure some subways.
But this is the other.
The other princess, our little princess. This is the Sussex get Lilibet christened with the official title Princess. Now, what I don't know is this sort of like Katie Price, where she has actually made her name Princess, just in case she didn't get given Princess title by the King. Right. Maybe they're like, let's name her Princess. And then actually now she's Princess. So I'm
But that's a huge risk because you don't want a child called Princess.
Oh, no,
or maybe you do. Maybe Meghan would love that. I don't know.
What happens if she has a sex change later? Princess?
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Yes.
They haven't really thought
this
through.
Yeah, and also, if you can choose your own pronouns, is this an extension of that? You can choose your own royal title. That's how far we've gone now.
I guess also one little thing. And there was Tyler Perry, who's a very famous actor, director, and an unnamed godmother. And I just thought, you know what? That's the perfect opportunity for her to get a name.
Yeah.
Would be like do another christening at the same time.
The
unnamed godmother she should get a name.
Yeah, it's never too late.
It's a joke.
Oh, while you're there, yes. Very good.
Anyway, finally, we've got our friends at the Daily Star Cressida. What have they got in the front cover today?
This is fantastic. Who's a pretty naughty boy then? Feathered hooligan won't stop swearing. There's a pub landlord who's got a parrot. It's very naughty. He's a 5-year-old parrot, used to live with a family and a baby, and he would copy the sounds of the baby's toys. But since he's been living in the pub, apparently he's spent too much time in front of the TV and he's picked up some bad habits. He's saying TV. I don't know whether that's just... I think
it's porn.
No, I don't think it's porn. I think people in pubs swear quite a lot, and I'm not sure...
What sort of language was he using?
Well, he's repeatedly told people to F off.
What word's that?
It's
we can't say it, unfortunately.
Well, Preston might be able to say it.
We can't swear.
Are we not allowed to swear?
Yeah. I've got the producer in my ear saying "do not swear," although they might just cut out a little bit, so it said "do swear."
Oh yeah.
So...
You're doing that thing where you're making the viewer say it in their head.
I want to make you say it.
I am saying it in my head,
You're
Josh.
I'm saying it
quite loudly.
Okay.
But this parrot, I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to put it under the table, I mean, and let people pet it? Josh, I mean, you look like somebody who's stroked a cockatoo under a table.
Oh, very good. I thought you said don't do any jokes.
That wasn't a joke.
That was a joke. That was based on real. Okay. The idea that he say, "Oh no, I'm really worried about it." It's like, mate, you have got gold there.
Yes.
A swearing parrot.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, put that. That should be the name of the pub now that people will visit from miles around.
Yes.
Yeah, it's brilliant. He's trying to be, oh no, I have to apologise to people. No, mate, but I'd go into that pub and be like, show me that parrot.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, maybe he tipped the Star off for this. Maybe it was his idea too.
Oh, you think so?
Story.
Conspiracy theory.
Well, the issue could be if the parrot goes to Scotland, it'll get arrested for hate crime. Anyway, that's the front pages done. Coming up after the break, we've got Sunak's sex lessons, pregnant non-women, and a drug that'll help you lose weight. And I'm not talking about heroin this time. See you in a couple of minutes.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one.
Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Leo Kearse, international man Josh Howie, and international woman Cressida Wetton. It's her day, apparently. Let's jump straight back in, kicking things off with The Guardian, and Europe could end trade with the UK over Rishi's plans to stop cross-channel migrants. Listen, Europe, we don't need your brie and frog's legs anyway. We've got Red Leicester and Turkey Twizzlers. Josh.
Brexit trade treaty could be terminated if the UK quits ECHR over small boat crossings. So this is the 2020 Trade and Cooperation Agreement, which is my favourite of all of the agreements. And basically what's happened is those evil EU people have tricked us again by making us write this agreement that we then signed. That essentially, if we do what we are planning on doing or threatening to do, leaving the ECHR, then it allows them unilaterally just to immediately pull out of the trade agreement that we made.
Yeah.
So that's not a good thing.
Yeah, but things have changed since we signed that agreement. When we signed
we've changed our mind.
No, we didn't have this issue with cross-channel migrants. The trade agreement.
Are you saying the Brexiteers didn't think stuff through?
Oh, come on! Nobody could have foreseen this particular issue. Nobody was. I mean, I think Remain would have been like, listen, if you vote for Brexit, you're going to get 45,000 people coming across in boats. We've got no idea who they are. You know, I think that would have come up.
I would say exactly that.
Why are you saying that? I mean, there seems to be a great amount of hindsight with Remain. I think you just get over it. You lost. Well, we lost. I voted Remain as well, but now I wish I hadn't because I like how it annoys the right people. But
so you think that's more important now? We've got to get the boat stopped. It's in his 5-point plan.
Yeah.
Get those boats stopped. I agree with that, or at least, but oh God, do we have to talk about immigration?
Well, we do for this story. We do for this story because part of the reason, and part of the reason I think this is unfair. So the EU is threatening to punish the UK if we override whatever agreement that means that we can stop the small boats crossing. But the reason people are coming to the UK is because they get rejected and they get treated badly in European countries on the way here. This is why the UK is such a destination.
But it goes both ways. They want to be in a partnership or have they want to be in a trade agreement with someone with a partner who follows the same human rights laws that they do. And there are many reasons that they want that to happen in terms of workers' rights, in terms of the myriad of reasons. That's the point of it. And that's why they specifically said, if you leave this, then we will terminate the agreement. It's not a threat.
But they're not applying the rules in the same way as the UK. So there are far fewer, as a proportion, asylum applications accepted in, for example, France than in the UK.
That's on them.
We pretty much take anybody that rocks up, and that's
but that's a separate rule that isn't to do necessarily with this particular. I don't care about these rules. This is like the modern slavery laws, which are specific to the UK because they're being exploited by some of the people who are coming over. That's got nothing to do with Europe. That's about us tightening our own laws, which is the whole reason we left Brexit the Europe in the first place. Right?
Yeah,
I'm glad we agree.
Well, I think they can threaten to withdraw from trade agreements. They need trade with the UK as much as we need trade with them. We're a big market. We produce a lot of great stuff.
Except for the fact that we, as it says here, we've gone from the 5th most important trading partner with Germany to the 11th. What happened in the last couple of years?
Well, they started trading a lot more with Russia, is what happened. Anyway, the Times now, and Rishi's not happy about sex education in schools, which now apparently includes instructions on oral sex and how to choke your partner. And it's probably delivered by a drag queen in a gimp suit, Cressida.
Well, yes, sex education review launched by Sunak. He's bringing forward the review that was due this year anyway. But 50 MPs have written to him saying, come on, we need to do this now, and everything you just said about drag queens and adult activities. So Miriam Cates, she's the MP leading this. She's told the Commons graphic lessons on oral sex, how to choke your partner safely in 70... Choke your partner safely? I've just been reading Louise Perry's book about this stuff, and she says there is no safe choking. Anyway, that's another topic. Yeah, so we've heard this book. There's a minimum of what has to be taught, but there's no ceiling. So we need Rishi to...
So they say you've got to teach the kids a minimum of stuff, but they don't say, but you've got to stop when you get to this height on the shelf.
The sky's the limit is what they're arguing. So all these concerned parents don't know what's being taught in the classrooms. And, I mean, this is the outrageous thing. They don't know what's being taught in the classrooms.
I know.
And this is one of the things that's being called to change.
And in some places, I mean, in Canada, I think it was in Canada, a mother queried what was being taught, and she was charged, I believe. She was disciplined for... in some way by the state for having the temerity to ask what her child was
crazy. Well, China's a whole different league. But then saying that, some of the stuff that you saw that happened in Isle of Man the other week, the things that these, like, 10-year-olds being taught, it's crazy. But the thing is, them going and Rishi Sunak saying, I'm going to go and speak to the Department of Education for it, where do you think the stuff came from?
Yeah.
They have been totally captured by Stonewall, by these other organisations, pushing through this ideology, and now the headmasters the head of the headmasters, what's he called, the headmaster?
He's saying that there's no need for it.
He said, no, there's no need. Well, mate, there obviously is a need for it because we're hearing about lots of these different schools. He's like, well, it's a minority of schools. I don't care if it's one school.
Yeah.
It needs to be looked at.
Like, I don't think, like, one child, surely that's an alarm bell.
Yeah, exactly. And
there's clearly some...
And he's talking about here, we need to listen to the voices of the education professionals and pupils. Now, if any educational professionals out there are pushing that primary school, even secondary school kids need to learn about choking and some of these other mad things that we've heard about, their hard drives need to be checked.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the people we need to listen to the most are the parents. Parents generally have the best interests of their children at heart and are the best custodians of them and deserve to have input into what they're taught.
Generally.
Generally, yeah. I mean, there's
present company exception.
Yeah, I mean, Fred West wasn't so great. But anyway, the Mail now and a prestigious medical body is celebrating International Women's Day by erasing women.
What are we going to talk about when this stuff doesn't happen anymore? This insanity. Exclusive outrage as Royal Court College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists invites organisation which says not all pregnant people are women to speak at their International Women's Day event. So essentially, they've invited this organisation. It's called Medical Her Story, because not his story, her story. And but you know, whatever. But they're saying that has claimed that a major myth about pregnancy is that all pregnant people are women.
Yeah.
What world are we living in?
This is why I don't like International Women's Day, because it's a class issue, isn't it? Because it's not. This isn't.
But they never went to class. Seemingly.
But we've seen a lot of companies and public bodies trying to push the gender ideology idea. With Hershey's in America, they had a transgender woman with the chocolate bar. Everything's, they're really trying to push it as hard as they can.
Yeah, but then Hershey's now deleted like 6 months worth of its tweets. Really? Because they got such a bad pushback from it.
Right.
And you have Biden today celebrating the woman in America, and come on.
But this is isn't this supposed to be about women accessing health during pregnancy?
Well, it's meant to be, and this is the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and they're being told that, you don't have to be a woman to get pregnant. I mean, come on.
And I think the issue with this is that everybody knows, like, if you're a trans man and you're born, in a woman's body, and you've had you've transitioned, but you get pregnant, you know that when midwife or the NHS is talking about pregnancy and ovaries and things, they know that they're talking, that includes you, because you've got those things. So it's not as if you're being excluded. It's not as if the trans man is walking around the maternity ward being like, but I have no idea where I should give birth because I am a man and men do not give birth according to this literature. They know that it refers to them.
Yeah. And Ms Hill has said that individuals should be treated with respect, this lady. She's making the point that there's at the population level and then there's the individual person.
It's a handful of trans men that this applies to, yet women need to be deleted somehow.
Yeah. Well, anyway, some good news now as the Mirror reports on an incredibly effective weight loss drug that's going to be available on the NHS. The bad news is that it's not cocaine. Cressida, tell us more.
That is bad news. Game changer, weight loss drug beloved by celebrities to be available on NHS. I'm thrilled the producers gave me this story. Thousands are expected to be offered the appetite suppressants. This is an appetite suppressant drug that celebrities use, and it's now going to be prescribed by the NHS.
And you're certain it's not cocaine?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because it's not called that here, but it could be just another brand name, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Does Gary Lineker use it? He's a celebrity.
Well, that would help, wouldn't it, with all the crisps? Maybe that's how he does it. I don't know.
And with a rampant ego and ridiculous claims.
I'm confused, though, because on the one hand, the NHS is saying it's safe, but it's also controversial. And I think what they're saying is, I think they're allowing people to have it for 2 years, targeted use. So if you've got a big obesity problem, they're going to let you have it, but not for the general population at this point. So it's almost like they've taken some medicine and said, well, it might be beneficial to some people, but harmful for others. We'll just start using it on the people who it could definitely benefit.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting strategy, isn't it, for a mass
Isn't that just how medicine works?
Well, normally, yes.
But do you think that maybe as food becomes scarce and scarce in this country, do you think they might just start giving us this drug instead so we're not complaining?
I don't think people are getting fat on tomatoes, Josh.
Well,
that's not.
I don't know.
The vegetable shortage is not an issue.
A lot of sugar in it.
I don't think that's the problem.
I mean, I've heard of this new drug called willpower. This is cheating. Oh, I've just had my shot. It's a shot you take once a week, and you're meant to also eat less and exercise.
It's not a miracle. There's no free lunch.
Well, it sounds... whatever.
Well, if there was a free lunch, it wouldn't work, would it?
Yeah.
But it's going to help us, though, because we've got a backlog with the NHS, and this is going to save the taxpayer lots of money, because there'll be fewer fat-related problems.
Well, the stuff that I've seen some of these fat people eating, I'm not surprised they've got a backlog. Anyway, the Telegraph now, and remember Ngozi Fulani, the woman who turned up to Buckingham Palace dressed like a cross between Fred Flintstone and Justin Trudeau at a fancy dress party, then got a woman fired because she asked, "Where are you from?" As you would if somebody was dressed like that. Well, she's still moaning about it, Josh.
So, Ngozi Fulani, do you know where she's from?
Hackney, I believe.
Okay,
Better say that quick.
Finally, we answered that. Attacks Buckingham Palace as she quits her own charity in wake of royal race row. We have, I believe, a clip that we're going to show you. That's the clip right there. It says,
too. If you're sorry, tell me you're sorry. If you're not, it speaks for itself.
Okay, I've got those earrings.
So, was that a clip from Coming to America? I mean, what was that?
Oh, my gosh, you can't...
I just said it. No, because this is the thing. She's not even... Apparently, I read a thing in the paper. She's not even wearing stuff that's appropriate to her background. It's a mishmash. There's like the shark, the leopard print dress, the shark...
It's from different cultures or whatever.
This is like the YMCA dressing up. It's just an approximation. It's
basically... She has talked about it in the past that she wears outfits that feel appropriate for going out.
So it's cultural appropriation.
Is it her culture? Well, it's a mishmash.
I mean, she says she's from Hackney. That's not a traditional Hackney outfit.
I wouldn't know. I stay in Crouch End.
I think this is what happens when you apologise when you haven't done anything wrong.
Who she's apologised?
Well, no, the palace. They've apologised, and it just keeps going and going, doesn't it? They appear to have met all of her requirements.
Demands.
Well, I'm trying not to say that.
Like she's taken a hostage.
Well, a number of pledges were made by the palace, which have all been honoured, including enhancing diversity and inclusivity programmes. So... isn't that the end of it? No, it just keeps going.
Yeah, this is the problem. I mean, like you say, Buckingham Palace shouldn't have said sorry. They should have said, like, wait a minute, you literally look like Prince Harry at a fancy dress party when he was 19 years old, when he used to be fun. You're wearing, like, the most racist approximation of an African-themed outfit. It's like something from a Carry On film. So obviously, we're going to ask where you're from.
Well, the other thing is she's totally deferring from what the real issue is, which is the fact that she's had to step down as the chief executive of her charity that she started, Sister Space, because there were some revelations that came out in the aftermath of all of that stuff with the palace, where there was Now, this hasn't been confirmed, but it seemed like there was a lot of, like, hiring a family to do certain things and paying over the odds for very simple things like getting websites and whatever. So that was actually sent to the Charity Commission, who were investigating it, and they've come back and said they've given her advice and guidance about managing any conflict of interest. So it's... So she's sort of had to... She's stepping down because of that, but she's sort of blaming it on the palace for this not... Even though they actually have apologised. And then, you know...
I didn't know about fraud.
I think it would be a good time to be quiet, wouldn't it? It would be a really good time to
just take
keep
that
a low
suitcase
profile.
of money and disappear over the horizon. Anyway, that's part 2 in the bag. But coming up, we've got the Spanish wooing the Germans, Scotland stopping wooing women, and 2 male mice wooing each other, apparently. Don't miss it.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. The Mail now, and Lanzarote doesn't want Brits to go on holiday there as we're not high quality. Mate, you're Lanzarote, not Monaco. This is like an ugly girl's Tinder profile saying, must be over 6 foot, earn 6 figures, and have a six-pack. Cressida.
That's very good. Lanzarote's president heaps praise on German tourists as the island looks to attract higher quality holidaymakers and rely less on Brits. So, yeah, they don't want us. Maria Dolores Coruju said the German market conformed to its intentions to aim at higher costs. So they want Germans and not us. They want Europeans. They want fewer of us. And this is just so rude, isn't it? Essentially, you've got the president, who's a left-wing politician, criticising the industry for having certain customers, and you won't be surprised to hear that the hotel chiefs see it differently, and they've insisted that it's unwise to talk of tourist saturations. This is like Primark saying we don't want Primark customers anymore, we want M&S customers. How about we just need some customers, because we've just had lockdown?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think they'd much prefer to have British customers than German customers, who I imagine would have a far higher standard.
That's racist against Germans, and I'd
I'm
like
fine with
to
that one.
apologise for any Germans that are watching.
No, I'm allowed to do
offended.
it. Totally fine. That's me.
Have you been to Lanzarote?
I thought it was a type of car.
Yeah, well, it seems strange. And also German tourists have got the reputation. I don't know if this is justified because I'm never up this early, but they run down and book the sunbeds. With
there's a whole thing of them, and especially Polish sunbeds.
Although they're helping Eastern Europe now. The Telegraph now, in Scotland's authoritarian regulation of speech is now going to criminalise talking to women or talking about sex in public. I reckon the people making the laws in Scotland are just virgins who are too scared to talk to women, so want to stop chads like us getting any. Josh.
Indeed, men in Scotland who loudly boast about sexual conquests in public could face jail, and saying this up to 7 years. Now, there is an issue, I believe, of misogyny or sexual deviance. Deviance? Is that
Scotland?
Well, specifically,
you've singled out Germany, and now you're targeting Scotland.
No, there's a problem. There's a problem of suggestive behaviour towards women, of hassling women. There's need to address this somehow.
Yeah.
But the idea that one of the craziest things here is that you don't necessarily have to be doing this directly in front of a woman. So just the fact that you might go, oh yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to do it. Does this show go in Scotland? Yeah, it does. Yeah, so I better watch myself.
Are you going to do the accent?
All right, pet. No, I'm from Scotland. So all right. Oh, that lassie, she's really bonny.
So if you talk about some sort of conquest, sexual conquest this year, or just any sort of intercourse,
I
whatever.
like her haggis.
And then that's the sort of thing we say in Scotland.
I'd like to deep fry her.
But do you think you should have a 7-year prison sentence for saying you wouldn't mind trying her haggis?
Of course not. So...
I think this is absolutely bonkers. How about we support fatherless boys to grow up and not be incels before we throw them in prison, don't you think?
Well, I think this is trying to find a legislative solution to a social problem.
Absolutely, and that's why I love Andrew Tate. I don't love Andrew Tate, but I think, Andrew Tate's like the modern Brothers Grimm fairy story, isn't he? He's like a warning, he's like, it's out there, guys, you're never going to completely suppress it.
Yeah.
And he's such a perfect example of that.
This is why, by the way, Cresta always wears these long-sleeved things just to hide all her Andrew Tate tattoos.
It's huge.
I belong
Absolutely
to Andrew
huge.
Tate. Yeah.
No, I think it's never going away, is it? And
Well,
what we need is a celebration of chivalry. That's all dead.
Yeah.
We want to. I think there's so many young boys that don't have enough aspiration, do they? So.
Well, I mean, my thing was always to get to children, when they're 7, 8, 9 years primary school, and teach them how to treat people properly. All people, but specifically women, and to explain these issues later on. So when they see it modelled by, if they're their parents or older brothers or whoever it is, we can break that cycle.
Yeah.
Because it is a real issue out there.
Yeah. Apparently. Anyway, The Guardian now, and continuing with the intercourse theme, scientists have created a mammal with 2 fathers, finally perfecting a technique that I've seen practiced in many top-shelf movies, although I don't think those people were scientists, Cressida.
Wow. Scientists create mice with 2 fathers after making eggs from male cells. This is unbelievable. They, being the scientists, have created mice with 2 biological fathers.
Mm-hmm.
What? It's like playing
You're
God,
defunct
isn't it?
now. We don't need you anymore.
You don't need us. Imagine that.
Finally.
Not all women.
But was there a female mouse as well?
No.
Well, eventually, if you want to do
the
this...
womb,
yeah, you have to create...
Could be a woman. Could be identified.
The cells were cultivated in an ovary organoid, which is a culture system designed to replicate...
Isn't that what they-thems call women?
Yeah, this is just new NHS terminology for women.
Isn't this, so anyway, scientists think that within the next 10 years they might be able to do this in humans.
Wow.
It's extraordinary.
Why is it going to take, if they can do it in a mouse now, why can't we do it next week in a human?
Because we're more complicated.
No, because it is more complicated. But it's really interesting how they do it. Basically, they take they delete one of the Y chromosome, and then they get another X chromosome and basically mirror it. Right. And the mice that have been given birth have survived as long, and they've gone on to have kids. So it's not like they're freak mice.
And they're like perfectly fine as mice.
Yeah. Produce mice that are then able to reproduce as well. So this is obviously could be potentially helpful to gay couples who want to have their own children.
As the Guardian says, it's a tantalising prospect.
It's every Guardian journalist's dream, managing to procreate without the need of another person. Anyway, the independence now and the energy crisis could be a thing of the past as scientists work out a way to generate electricity from the air around us, Josh.
Indeed, scientists discover how to make electricity out of thin air. It's funny, we're always sort of talking that these seem to be these new inventions every few months or so where they go, oh, now we've invented hydro-powered blah, blah, blah. This one is an enzyme that is found in various different extreme environments like volcanoes and whatnot. And the enzyme actually can use the hydrogen in the air and will create electrical current. So the idea is if you get enough of it, it might well... And you can store it at all these different temperatures. You can boil it or you can freeze it or whatever. It's very durable and it will generate electricity. So, you know what we're always saying, where is these inventions are going to come from? And actually, they were out there.
But I mean, is it generating electricity to a usable level?
Well, it's been running me for a few weeks.
That's what I want to get it in the off-grid lifestyle. Some of us don't have normal grid electricity.
Live on a boat?
I
live in a boat,
yes.
So how do you get electricity?
I have solar panels, and then if that's not enough, then I run the engine.
And can you run? What can you run off solar panels in this
Well,
country?
exactly, not a lot. I haven't had a hairdryer for 5 years.
Didn't want to say anything.
Thanks. But you can charge your laptop. You can cope. It's like glamorous camping. But this sounds exciting, doesn't it? Any developments are welcome.
Yeah.
I say that on behalf of the boating community, I'm sure.
A near limitless source of clean energy.
It's the dream.
There we go.
And without any need for hyperheated plasma for nuclear fusion or anything. This is just bacteria smeared on a film or something. Anyway, that's it for this section. But coming up in the final part is our International Women's Day special with a few blokes. Catch you in a couple of minutes.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. Kicking things off, I'm a heterosexual man, but my wardrobe is 50% women's clothing. But enough about me. You've got a story in the Daily Mail, Josh.
I do, indeed. I love wearing heels and skirts to the office, and my wife doesn't mind. And I like this story because, so what? That's totally cool. He's a bloke, and he's like, I like wearing skirts. I like to wear some high heels. People in his life and people in his little town that he lives in, they don't seem bothered about it. And you know what? He's a man. And he says, I'm a man. And he goes to the men's toilet. There he is there.
Picture of him.
Good. He's got beautiful legs.
Wow.
He's good. He's 6 foot tall, so he's got, why... this is not... And by the way, this isn't anything new as such. You had David Bowie doing this kind of thing 40, 50 years ago. So it's not like playing with gender norms and whatnot. It's all a construct anyway. What isn't a construct is biological sex. And wearing a dress, wearing high heels, does not suddenly make you a woman and thus mean that you can compete in women's sports and invade women's spaces.
He has shaped his legs, though. I mean, that is a biological reality. His legs are quite female.
And you're okay with that? Who cares? So he shaves legs. Maybe
I think what's unusual about him is that he seems so at home in high heels. He says they naturally make me feel more confident. I think, oh, good for you. I hate wearing high heels. If I have to wear them at a wedding or something, it's...
I don't let my wife wear high heels.
You don't let your wife wear high heels?
No, I don't. Because she can't walk very fast in them, and I want her to keep up with me.
That's a great thing to say. That's a great thing to say on International Women's Day.
We've had many
I
arguments.
I control my wife's footwear.
She can wear them, but if I have somewhere to walk, I'm not going to wait. As far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't see the aesthetic appeal of them. Right. So I probably just lost all the goodwill I might have just gained from any women out there with my lovely rant. But I just don't like high heels. On women. Men, it's fine. They can walk fast in them, so that's totally cool.
OK. Well, moving on, we've got the Mail again, and HR bureaucracy is one of the horrors of the modern world. And one man in America doesn't get a respite when he gets home, Cressida.
Girlfriend 30 places her boyfriend on a performance improvement plan to improve their relationship and compares the controversial tactic to HR in a workplace. Sounds awful, but this is quite sweet. I think this is a successful relationship.
Absolutely.
So they weren't getting on. They moved in together after 3 months, which is a bit risky, isn't it? They moved in, they weren't getting on.
On a boat, right?
No, not on a boat. Can you imagine? They weren't getting on, and then she says, I know it's kind of harsh to some, but he's an engineer, and sometimes it's really hard to communicate with him.
So he's autistic?
Well, he's an engineer. He's more interested in things than people.
That's a euphemism, isn't it? Engineer.
But she didn't want to bid him, so they tried this thing called a Kanban board, which is something that apparently you use in the workplace. It's a board where she writes down all her complaints, and because she's got a system, he looks at the complaints or the tasks and he does them, and now it's harmonious. So, are you going to introduce this into your marriage, Josh?
This is a great... Well, all it is basically...
I'd be amazed if you don't have your wife on a performance improvement plan, Josh.
It's the other way around. She's the one in charge, apart from the high heels issue. But it's a to-do list, and essentially it's good communication. That's the secret of any relationship. Sounds like they also catch up with each other once a week just to assess and make sure everything's moving in the right direction. This is great, but they're calling it a Kanban board. Where there is actually a practical concern here, because the idea is that men aren't that great at keeping that stuff sometimes in our head. I'm generalising here. And the idea that you can just see, what have I got to do next? Oh yeah, brilliant. I'll do that, and I'll sort that out, and I'll do whatever. So as opposed to, and what's the idea that when you're splitting housework, the idea that women think about it more makes it more unfair towards them because they're the ones who have to think about
I don't know.
stuff.
Jung said that a man's highest value is perfection and a woman's highest value is wholeness. And I think that's relevant here.
Men do like women's wholeness.
Anyway, the Sun now, and it wouldn't be International Women's Day without a story about a woman leeching money from a hard-working man, Josh.
The tycoon ordered to pay his ex-wife £180,000 for 25 years of unpaid housework in divorce settlement. So what they haven't really got into here, and he's got about £3.5 million with a bunch of cars and a big house, all this stuff. Why wasn't she getting half of it anyway? They're married, they have a bunch of kids. She should be getting half of that. She absolutely is a part of his success. And the idea that she's only going to get £180,000 seems pathetic.
It does seem a bit light. That's exactly what I thought. Is it because he got her to sign something?
It doesn't say that, though. And the other thing is, they worked it out by doing the minimum monthly professional wage. Right. Maybe she was actually a good cleaner, and if she had been a professional cleaner, she might have earned more than that.
Well, we don't know how clean the house was. I mean, that's what I'd base it on. I'd want to see some Polaroids. Anyway, The Independent now, and most men will be familiar with trying to give a woman a hand and being rejected. Cressida.
Woman waiting on rare double hand transplant rejects man's hands. So this... It sounds like something from a Little Britain sketch. I think they might have even done this. This lady... very sadly had sepsis and lost her hands and feet, but there's this amazing technology now where she can have a hand transplant, which she's waiting for. They actually connect...
They call it a hand job, right?
It's amazing technology. It's amazing technology.
It is amazing technology, the hand job. Yeah, Ms Smith from Milton Keynes, Buckinghamshire, was asked if she'd accept some donor hands from a male donor, and she said, no, I'm 5'2". Well, she was 5'2" before she lost her feet. I would like lady hands. And then she was offered some black hands. I assume she's white. And she said she didn't feel that was for her. But the more...
I mean, it would be strange having, like,
well, it would, wouldn't it?
Hands.
I don't think this is unreasonable. And apparently there's actually a medical basis for this, because if you're not happy with the hands, they're more likely to get rejected.
So I don't think it's racist at all.
Well, if it is racist, it's so deeply racist in her that her body...
Well, they said that it's unlikely she's going to get any white hands. White hands are in short supply. Women's hands.
Why is that? I didn't understand why...
No, I don't.
I don't know where donor hands... I take it somebody dies, you get their hands...
Maybe men and black women are more generous with their hands.
Right, they tick the hand box...
or whatever, yeah. And white women are being really stingy in their donation hands box or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would love some black hands.
In any particular part of your body, or
just the hands, just to bring everything else up to scale?
Right. Maybe to play, I don't know, trumpet or something like Louis Armstrong.
No, I just think it'd be great. I'd be like black and.
I don't think you would.
Don't think if you had black hands you could like be black?
Where is this going?
Do you think you could like claim reparations in California if you had a hand transplant from a rat? Anyway, the show is nearly over, so before we cancel our careers, let's take another quick look at Thursday's front pages. The Daily Mail has, is Lineker about to get the boot from the BBC? That's after his anti-Semitic comparison of modern Britain with Nazi Germany. The Telegraph has Hancock's Chinese lab leak claims censored. The Guardian has Sunak facing clash with EU on unlawful asylum plans. The Times has weight loss drugs could help to trim benefits bill. Presumably it will stop people spending so much money on Kit Kats. The Daily Star has who's a pretty naughty boy then? Potty mouth parrot causes chaos in Boozer. And that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Josh Howie and Cressida Wetton. Headliners will be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Andrew Doyle, Steve N. Allen and Josh Howie. And remember, if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, stay tuned for The Breakfast Show coming up right now.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the people's channel and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Good evening. I'm Lawrence Fox, standing in for Nigel Farage this evening. On the programme tonight, boy, do I have an Ofcom compliant show for you. 3 times back and forth from the lawyers. Should treason laws be updated? We'll debate that. Meanwhile, it's International Women's Day, but this is this momentous day more important and needed than ever? And the latest on Matt Hancock's leaky WhatsApp messages. First, though, let's bring you up to speed with what's going on in the world. It's news with Polly Middlehurst.
Lawrence, thank you. Good evening. The Prime Minister has accused the Labour leader of being on the side of the people smugglers as the pair went head-to-head in the House of Commons today over the new illegal migration bill. Rishi Sunak defended the legislation, which will remove those who enter the UK illegally and ban them from seeking asylum in future. But Sir Keir Starmer cast doubt on the plan, saying attempts to tackle the number of channel crossings in the last decade have failed and numbers have actually gone up.
The honourable gentleman has been on the wrong side of this issue his entire career. He described all immigration law as racist. He said it was a mistake to control immigration. And he has never, ever voted for tougher asylum laws. It is clear, Mr. Speaker, while he's in hock to the open border activists, we're on the side of the British people.
Mr. Speaker, when I was in charge of prosecutions, I extradited countless rapists, and the conviction rate for people smuggling was twice what it is today. I voted against his legislation last time because I said it wouldn't work. Since it became law, the numbers have gone up. He's proved me right.
Well, in other news today, the reward for information about the shooting of a police officer in Northern Ireland last month has been increased to £150,000. Detective Chief Inspector John Caldwell was shot up to 10 times at a sports centre in Omagh after coaching his children's football match. He remains in a critical but stable condition in hospital. RMT union members will vote tomorrow on a new pay offer from Network Rail aimed at resolving a long-running dispute over pay, jobs and conditions. The suspended industrial action was due to take place on the 16th and 17th of March. The union says the new pay offer involves extra money, but they say industrial action with 14 other rail companies will go ahead later on this month. And finally, dozens of flights have been disrupted in the south of England as snow continues to fall across the country tonight. That's after the coldest night of the year so far last night. The Met Office saying temperatures dropped to minus 15.4 degrees in the Scottish Highlands. That's the lowest March temperature in more than a decade. And what's on the way? Well, more sleet, snow and sub-zero temperatures expected right across the UK until at least Friday. That's all from me. I'm back in an hour. Now back to Lawrence Fox.
According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the definition of a traitor is a person who betrays the trust of another, a cause, etc. A person who commits or is judged to be guilty of treason against his or her sovereign or country. All of us will remember the devastatingly sad images of Her late Majesty the Queen, sat, racked and crouched in fragile grief, needlessly muzzled and so alone on the pews of St George's Chapel, Windsor, without so much as a hand to comfort her following the loss of her lifelong love. She did this, as with everything else, with utter and stoic dignity, to remind the people that she was one of us, that these rules, so deviously composed and then imposed on her people, also applied to her. All the while, as she sat, head down in lonely despair, traitors stalked the halls of Westminster or toasted each other in carefree zest at secret speakeasies in Downing Street. Those images of Her Majesty are etched onto so many minds because they were a stark reflection of our own experiences during those dark times. A reflection of the unimaginable cruelty meted out on the population as the most sacred of liberties, rituals, and traditions were torn up in front of our horrified faces by scheming and bantering men in WhatsApp groups, vaingloriously drunk on power. The countless stories of those left to die alone in hospitals and care homes, of vulnerable children's education taken and sanity shaken, and of the silent and unheard fists and blows delivered to terrified spouses in lockdown houses. All the time, the bantering traitors in WhatsApp groups giggled over when to release the Kent variant of the virus. My own rage at this is crystallised by my dear mum's frail friends saying that they still can't grieve properly as they never had a chance to say goodbye properly. My siblings and I in that cold graveyard stood metres apart, unable to reach out a hand to our own father, himself stoic, head bowed and alone as they hurriedly lowered my mum into the ground, because those were Hancock's rules. Meanwhile, across town, glasses clinked in Downing Street. I imagine the former Health Secretary and the clapping cowards who applauded alongside in Parliament, lest the tireless campaigner for disability and mental health bribe them with the removal of their disability and mental health grants for voting against his tyranny, thought he was in the clear. Readying himself for the next chapter in his blessed life with £400,000 fees on celebrity TV and promises of altruistic charitable donations, which unsurprisingly turned out to be pocket change percentages of his takings in the end. He kept most of the dough, eager perhaps to squeeze that bottom again, this time on a moonlit beach in front of a boutique hotel somewhere warm and expensive, having betrayed his own wife, his own rules, his queen, and his country. Like some weak-chinned and sadistic dictator, he willfully and joyfully gleed at the abuses of his people. He declared himself and his follow-the-fear tactics sovereign over us all. He controlled us with confected variants to scare us into submission, confusing and destroying our ability to inform our own consent, all to quench his thirst for power. He vastly over-egged the severity of the possibly lab-cooked bug, to the point that his own chief medical officer was reluctant to endorse the hastily assembled alchemy of mRNA witchcraft for a virus of this severity. He demanded that we cover our faces in betrayal of the science he was so brutal to ensure everyone else followed, but not him. A jab, which, whether the regime will admit it or not, has killed and will continue to kill the dutifully innocent for years to come. As for Hancock, as Shakespeare said, now does he feel his title hang loose about him, like a giant's robe upon a dwarfish thief. I am not a supporter of the death penalty, however heinous the wrong committed. But after witnessing the crimes against humanity those in high office have partaken in these last years, my stance on the matter is now under close review. Well, it's all been fun and games at GB News HQ today, as the back and forth between the production team, myself and the lawyers over what I can and can't say about the delightful Matthew has gathered pace. We've come to an agreement, and the lawyers, for my own good, would like me to remind you that Matthew has not committed treason or any other crimes except breaking all the rules he made up. Welcome to the home of free speech, which definitely doesn't only work in one direction. I'm going to read lovely Matthew's statement now. These stolen messages have been doctored to create a false story that Matt rejected clinical advice on care home testing. This is flat wrong. These messages imply Matt simply overruled clinical advice. That is categorically untrue. He went as far as possible, as fast as possible, to expand testing and save lives. This story categorically shows that the right place for this analysis of what happened in the pandemic is in the inquiry. Now, I've been wondering today about whether our treason laws should be significantly expanded to punish politicians who commit crimes. Seeing as these laws have been in place for almost 700 years, I think it might be time they're due an upgrade. In fact, the last person to be convicted of high treason under the 1351 Treason Act was William Joyce, aka Lord Haw-Haw, who was found to have collaborated with the Nazis during World War II and hanged, yippee, for his crimes. Recently, the government has been planning on updating the treason law to be modernised and give more powers to target threats to the UK domestically and overseas. Yet there are concerns that it could actually do more harm than good. So, well, to talk with me about this, I'm joined by historian Martin Whittock. Good evening, Martin.
Good evening.
700 years is quite a long time. What changes could or should be added to treason law?
Well, you're absolutely right. The treason law that we now have dates back to, it's been amended since, the Treason Act of 1351. That was under Edward III. And originally the aim was to stop people plotting the death of the sovereign or adultery with the sovereign's consort, with the sovereign's eldest unmarried daughter, or with the wife of the heir to the throne, waging war against the sovereign, assisting the sovereign's enemies, attempting to undermine the lawful established line of succession. And it could be very, very severely punished. Members of my own family in 1685 in Somerset were hanged, drawn and quartered for treason. If you were lucky, you were dead before they pulled your insides out and set fire to it. If you were unlucky, you weren't, if you see what I mean. In the end, it developed to mean not just threatening the life of the sovereign, it came to mean threatening the sovereign's state. And then it all started to get very, very woolly because it could be misused. Parliament could find somebody guilty of treason and you couldn't appeal. Favourites of the rulers could be dragged before the courts when powerful rivals controlled Parliament. Or it could hit people never intended. The execution of Charles I in 1649, or too broad. It could include counterfeiting coins, or saying that the king is not the sovereign of the supreme head of the Church of England. It could even be stretched to include a Welshman stealing cattle, or to commit murder by poison. So over the years, treason has become increasingly difficult to apply. People talk about traitors, they talk about treason, but the simple matter is that treason has a very, very specific legal application. And in fact, since the 19th century, it has proved increasingly difficult to get convictions for treason because it is so complicated. So, for example, as you've rightly said, the last person who was committed for high treason was William Joyce, Lord Haw in the Second World War, executed by hanging in 1946. And many people will be surprised to know that the death penalty actually technically remained for treason until it was completely abolished in 1998. Extraordinary, even though it had been abolished across the UK, apart from Northern Ireland, in 1969. It's sometimes still brought out. For example, Jaswant Chail was charged under the Treason Act 1842, one of the many revisions of the 1352 Act, and I believe convicted as recently as February 2023.
Would that be
technically,
was that of treason or of high treason?
Act, it's not treason as normally understood. Treason is really difficult to make work.
So in regards to the fact that you've very beautifully laid out there the history of treason and the complexity of it, there will be many people in this country, certainly in regards to things like the murder of Lee Rigby or the Manchester bombings. Obviously, in that case, it's different. The bomber died with the victims, but people will want these things updated. Do you think that's possible and useful? To create a crime against the country.
Treason still exists as a crime, and some parts of it are very clear-cut in law, attempting to assassinate the monarch, for example. Other areas, betrayal of country, become much more difficult. So I'm not against the existence of